So today we're reviewing
The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren take on one of the most sensational cases of their careers after a cop stumbles upon a dazed and bloodied young man walking down the road. Accused of murder, the suspect claims demonic possession as his defense, forcing the Warrens into a supernatural inquiry unlike anything they've ever seen before.
We just saw Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. The third Conjuring movie in the trilogy is the last movie in the trilogy of Conjuring movies.
Yep.
And what is your initial thoughts of The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It?
Well, I mean, just initially, I just want to say, obviously, this is a universe that we're big fans of. We have a playlist on the channel reviewing every single film up to this point, and I've really enjoyed almost every single entry into this universe, with a couple ones that didn't really land 100% for me. As it comes to The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, I would definitely have to say that I enjoyed this film in a lot of different ways. Where it sits on the overall rankings list of the other films, you'll hear our thoughts as the review goes on, and we might do a separate video just like ranking each one. I'll definitely say that I enjoyed this film. While there was a couple complaints I had regarding the storyline and some of the decisions that were made, but I definitely thought this was a pretty scary film. It had me on the edge of my seat a few times, and I had to look away a couple times, which is very similar to the first two Conjurings. While I enjoyed it, I don't think it lived up to the level of Conjuring 1 and 2.
Yeah, this movie is definitely well made. I mean, this has a lot to live up to because the Conjuring 1 classic, second one really good.
Yep.
So third Conjuring, there's a lot to live up to here. And even though I don't think it lives up to the first two, I think this is a very scary movie.
Yeah.
It's just very well made. It seems like it's very well made through this whole movie. And there's a lot of good things about it. I had a good time. And for horror movies, this is just so much better than... This is not just some throwaway horror movie. This is a very well put together movie, and there's a lot of things to like about it. What are your positives about the movie?
Well, I mean, much like what almost every single other reviewer has said, the two main leads in this film, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, carry this film 100%. The connection between those two and the roles that they play, just perfect job both all the way around. They've never had one complaint regarding either of those two in any of the movies that they've been into this point. So those two do a great job acting in the film, and everyone else does a pretty good job with their roles as well. And then when it comes to this movie being a horror movie, some very scary scenes, some really tense scenes. I like the settings. I feel like there's like 2 or 3 locations that I was really liking a lot. Like you'd walk in and be like, oh, wow, something's about to go on in this area. So the setting was great. The special effects were great. And like I said, there was definitely some scenes that were much scarier than the last couple of films that have been put in this universe, I think. Getting back to where the level of horror that was in Conjuring, Conjuring 2, Annabelle Creation. So some really scary scenes. And when a horror movie doesn't make you, when it makes you not be able to get the screen a few times, and I guess also the jump scares were all earned. There was no cheap jump scares either, which is a good thing too.
Yeah, that is surprising. That's a good point. That there really wasn't a cheap jump scare. I can't really remember one. I mean, they were all earned.
But that wasn't even a jump scare. That was just
I wouldn't even count that as a jump scare. Yeah, the positives about this movie are it's very well put together, and that comes from the acting. These main two characters, like you mentioned, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, they're really good, and they're really the staple behind so many of these movies, and they're really good. And the acting from the other actors in the movie, the main, the little boy, the older guy who's possessed for most of the movie, he's really good. You got other characters in there, so the acting's really good. The scares are really good. The setup to them is also good. Yep. And the effects, the scares, it's all really well put together. And I'm really having a hard time even thinking of any negatives because there's so many positive things. Might as well just get into our negatives. If I remember a positive, I'll bring it up again. But
yeah, I mean, so I guess the one more positive, the music, the main track between that connection between Ed and Lorraine Warren. There's a song they always bring back for them that has been, I think, in each one of the movies that they've been featured. But as far as the negatives go, I think it's once again not even close to being as confusing as Wrath of Man, but there are the way that they play out the villain in this movie and the demon. In my mind, I think we both agree on this, was a little bit confusing as far as what the actual demon was, because you see it in many different forms, and this isn't getting to the spoilers because it's a demon movie. You're going to see it in a lot of different ways, but by the end of the movie, you really don't know exactly what this demon looks like. It's almost the demon takes possession of the person too much to where you don't know what the demon looks like.
I guess the villain overall is confusing about
Yeah,
who the actual villain is. That's kind of a problem with a lot of these movies.
I can get more into specifics on that in the spoilers
because
I think you do see it a couple times, but then again, it's like you'll hear our thoughts more in the spoilers. But I think the villain was just not as decisive as I was hoping, and then the ending once again. I'm not gonna say that the ending fell flat for me, not regarding Ed and Lorraine Warren, but as far as like the demons end of the story, that part of it. It's. I mean, I guess these movies don't have too many options at the end. I mean, it has to kind of get to like the craziness of the ending, but I think this one definitely fell flat in relation to, like I said, the first two entries of this universe. I guess as far as like the Conjuring movies go, because there's a lot of movies in this universe overall, but in Conjuring, Conjuring 2, and Conjuring 3 now, I just think it just did not match the ending to those as well. But once again, those are like 10 out of 10s for me.
Yeah, I think really the only negatives I can really think of. Because so much of this movie is just so good. And for horror, I mean, I know how hard it is to make a horror movie. And it's really difficult. And scares were done so well. I think the only really negative I can think of is that the ending is messy. I mean, that's really the only thing. I'm not going to act like I know how to end the movie. I don't have recommendations about what to do. With all these movies, it seems like the ending is always messy. With horror movies, it just seems like it doesn't just wrap up perfectly. And that's what keeps these movies from being perfect. Having like a really good ending. I'm just waiting for one of these movies to have a perfect ending.
Conjuring 2, in my mind, was her perfect ending.
Well, yeah, I mean, with most horror movies, it seems like the ending just gets crazy and just crap happens and it's really weird. But I think that's really the only negative I have. I mean, I'd like to have the more clarity on the villain because it's a little confusing with that aspect because the villain's not exactly clear who it is, and that's maybe a little more explaining would be helpful there. That's probably the only negatives, but
do you think it dragged at all? I was not tired watching it. I did not feel bored ever. So I thought the runtime was perfect. I think it was just about under 2 hours. I think is what it actually was.
Yeah, it flowed pretty well.
But it definitely flowed pretty well. It was nothing did not seem to drag at all in my mind. I think you agree.
Yeah, I think it flowed pretty well.
Yeah, I think it flowed pretty well.
I just have to ignore the people to my right and left that were chewing popcorn, and that was bothering my movie going experience, but I try to block that out.
Yeah, devouring popcorn, be on their phones, Skittles pouring down, people choking.
Yeah, so falling asleep and snoring.
We can talk about that in the spoilers. But getting into our scores, I've been thinking about this score since I got out of the theater. But for me, like The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, I'd have to say, at the end of the day, my score for this movie would have to be a 7.5 out of 10. Because in my mind, anything above 8, anything 8 or above is something that I would watch over and over and over again. And I just can't see myself watching this over and over and over again more than a couple times. Like, I'll watch it if it's on TV, but Conjuring 2, I'll watch any part of the movie, just pick it up and watch it. Annabelle Creation, we just watched just within the hour because it's that good of a movie. Conjuring, it's super scary. I think that's one that I probably wouldn't watch too much because it's just so scary. But they're all really scary. But I would say that it's a 7.5 out of 10 for me, which is still really good. But yeah, I would say 7.5 is what I'll end up with on this movie.
Yeah, I'd probably have to go with an 8 out of 10. What, were you expecting something crazier?
But 7.5 is pretty close to 8. I
mean, what you were the one that jumped. I give it an 8 out of 10. I don't know why Jake's surprised about that. I give this movie an 8 out of 10 because I think it's a good movie. There's a lot of good stuff here. There's some great jump scares. The scares are built up so well, and it's a really good horror movie. I just think that if there was a little more clarity, and there's things you can't talk about. We can't talk about spoilers. That there's an excellent looking villain in this movie, and then something happens where I can only explain in spoilers that if they would have carried something through, this probably would have been a 9 or a 10. But something happens where it just goes away, and it just does not carry through to the end. If this movie would have finished and wrapped up, this would have been probably a 9 or 10. But I think it's going to be an 8 because I think this is a good movie, but because of that ending, some unclarity with the villains brings it down a few points. But this is definitely a good movie, and I would recommend it for any horror fans.
Yeah, I would definitely 100% recommend this to any horror films out there. But and how we would describe, in a non-movie technical term, just as we always like to see boss scenes in movies. Speaking of Halloween, how they've done a lot of the Conjuring villains in the past movies with the Nun and the Ram. But there's a really cool scene at the end of this movie that's an awesome boss moment, which I'm not getting spoilers. There's an awesome scene at the end of this movie that, for me, this is why it's a 7.5, not an 8. It was an epic, awesome opportunity for a very great introduction to the demon of the film, and it was a great lead up to it. And the way that they paid it off, just really, it's costing it from a 7.5 to an 8 because of the look that they went with, and I can't say anything more than that.
Yeah, but, we'll definitely be getting that into the spoilers.
It was a really cool scene. Definitely recommend it for any of you guys to go see. Obviously, if you're above 18, but if you're a horror fan, you definitely want to see this movie and check it out, because it is definitely, like I said, it ups the scares a lot, and it's way better than La Llorona. Even though I like that movie, Annabelle Comes Home, Annabelle. It's nowhere. It's way better than those movies, 100%.
We're doing a spoilers discussion most likely tomorrow or the next day, but I definitely recommend this movie to any horror fans out there, and especially fans of the Conjuring universe.
Okay, so thanks for watching our non-spoiler review of The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It. Let us know in the comments what you think of this movie. Check out the updated playlist once we update it. And yeah, so see you in the spoilers discussion. Bye, guys.